Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to our CEM homework review session. We're going to go through week one's homework, and this is for our year 5 students, and we're in block 5. My name's Chris Pearce, and I'm just going to run down through the homework with you. The advantage of going through the homework video is that you can stop it, you can pause it, you can check your work as you go down through, and I'll give you plenty of opportunity to do that. As I go through the video, you can stop it, tick it and go through and see how you've got on. We would really encourage you, of course, if you do get any wrong, to look back, see if you understand what mistakes you've made, but as you're going through, we'd also ask you to record down your results as well. It's a really good way of tracking, and I'll pinpoint what pages to go on to actually track your progress as well. So, shall we get started and just go through your homework with you? So, hopefully you're able to do this yourselves rather than your mums and dads having to mark your homework. You can check it through yourselves. So what are we looking at? Well, I'm actually going to be focusing on the verbal reasoning task that you had to do. I'm just going to be looking at the you must. So we'll be looking at test 2 to 4, also be looking at the closed test 1 to 2, and I'll also go through the puzzle answers with you as well. We would ask your parents to actually check your you could if you've managed to do the you could activities as well. There is a separate video for the non-verbal reasoning, and that can be watched as well on all of those tests, or those 2 tests that you've got in the you must there. So what books are we going to be looking at? It's going to be these 2 books, and we're actually going to start off with the verbal reasoning one, and then we'll look at the closed tests as well. So can I ask you please to make sure you've got this verbal reasoning book out and ready to go. It's always a good idea when you're marking if you use a different colour, just to indicate very clearly which ones you've got right and which ones you haven't. So make sure you maybe got a coloured pen ready, and then we'll go down through those tasks. So, as I say, it's the verbal reasoning book that we need first of all, and with the verbal reasoning book I'm going to actually ask you to go to test 2. So this is the test, okay, test 2, and you need to be on page 6. You need to be on page 6. Now, this was actually a closed activity, and it was all about Mozart. And the idea behind this would be that you read through the sentences. Each of the sentences, of course, are numbered down the side. And then you can see you've got a word with lots of letters missing. And you've got to work out what that word should be. Now, what I've done down the side is you can see all the words that you needed to have. And then in red, I've put what those missing letters should be. Okay, so what I would ask you to do is go down through. It's very important with a closed test that you sort of read beyond the gap to give you a clue. So go down through, and then any that you've got correct, all you do is just give them a tick, and you can just go down through the list, checking your spellings each time. You do have to get the word correctly spelt to get the mark. If you knew the word but you've spelt it incorrectly, or you've added in the incorrect letters, I'm afraid you don't get the mark. So the spellings are really, really important. Okay, so this might be a good opportunity to pause the video, and then you can go down through and you can double check the words that you should have included. Okay. So spelling's really important. Any words you didn't know, maybe go in your word and meaning book, and you can perhaps give me a mark underneath out of 12. So how many out of 12 did you manage in that particular exercise? Okay, let's move on to the next part of this test. And this is questions 13 to 17. And I've actually written in the words here. So this is opposite in meaning. Remember what we talked about in the lesson. Very important when you're doing opposites. You make sure that they're not synonyms that you're going for, but the letters that you're given should hopefully give you a clue. So we've got extinguish, ignite. Ignite means to sort of set alight. Extinguish means to put out. Dishevel might be a new word for some of you. If you look dishevelled, you look rather untidy. If you groom yourself, you look tidy. So they would be opposite. Tire and energize. Careless and cautious, and bravery and cowardice. So again, if you want to put a little mark there, maybe you could put a little mark out of 5, depending on how many you managed to get right. Well done if you did get 5 out of 5 on that one. And then we've got questions 18 to 22, and what we're looking for here is to find the word that is unrelated. So on 18 we've got famine. Because all the others you could have a shortage or a lack or a scarcity of anything, whereas famine is usually associated with food. Then we've got victorious, fulfillment, accomplishment and success. Victorious is the odd one out there. Happy, sympathetic, content and delighted. So sympathetic is the odd one out. Beautiful, stunning, striking and gracious. So hopefully you went for gracious. And then gift, balloon, party and card, and party is the odd one out. So again, go down through, check them, make sure you are accurate. If you do get any wrong, it's just worth putting a dot. We don't really like crosses, so just put a little dot. And you can go down through and you can check and see what you got. So if you did manage 5 out of 5 there, superb. You can just write a little score there for us. Then the last set of questions, we've got reshuffled sentences. So questions 23 to 26 are reshuffled sentences. And what we'll do here is we'll just go down through and I'll tell you what the sentence should have been. The words that are underlined in red, those are the superfluous words. Those are the words that you couldn't use in the sentence. So we talked quite a bit about these in our lesson and how to do them and how to tackle them. So hopefully you used all those techniques, crossing out the words that you've used to leave you with the word that you don't need. So 23, as I say, was clocks, and that picture on the wall has a nice frame. So that picture on the wall has a nice frame. So therefore clocks was the one you didn't require. 24, thousands of stars lit up the whole sky. So twinkle was the word we didn't need there. So thousands of stars lit up the whole sky. 25 was knock. The door swung open with a loud bang. The door swung open with a loud bang, but knock would be a word that we wouldn't be able to include in that sentence. And the last one, there is plenty of time to practice for the concert. There is plenty of time to practice for the concert, and the word enough was the superfluous word. Brilliant. If you managed to get all of those, maybe you could write a score then out of 26. And what we can do with this is then go to the back of our books. On the last page, there's a progress grid, and this is inside the front cover, and you could write out of 26 what you managed to score for test 2. Test 2. Right, we're going to move on now to the next test in your book. And the next test that we're going to be looking at is going to be test 3. Now I'll just indicate to you where or what page you need to be on for this particular test. Make sure I direct you correctly. So you need to be on page 9. Page 9. And when you go on to page 9, you'll see what Katie did at school. You'll see that passage. Okay, so we're going to quickly mark through the comprehension. There are 7 questions that we're going to answer. This just indicates where I've highlighted where those answers would come from, and you can flick back and forward to those different slides if you want to, or pause the videos just so you can see where the answer's been taken from. Question 1, why does Clover cry out and start up in bed? She is startled by the morning bell, and that says here, starting up in bed the next morning as a clanging sound roused her, in other words, woke her up. So that's A. Question 2, by what time do the girls have to be ready? So again, if we go back to the passage, yes, they pointed to 6, but we've got a half an hour, so that would make it 6:30. So 6:30 is the answer to that one. Question 3, how do you know that Clover hasn't been at the school very long? D, she is surprised by how much there is to do in the morning. And again, this is kind of indicated in terms of how much they have to do. We'll have to be quick to do all that besides dressing ourselves. So they've got a lot to get done in the morning. Okay. Question 4, what does the author mean by fingers turn into thumbs? Well, if you've ever tried to put on buttons, potentially when your hands are very cold, or you're in a bit of a rush, it's quite difficult to do up buttons. So it means rushing and makes them clumsy. So 4C, and the evidence is here. Fingers turn into thumbs. Dresses won't button, nor pins keep their place. So if they're doing anything with their hair, they're struggling to do it because they're rushing. Let's go back to that question. So question 4 was C. And then question 5, we've got D. What information in the text tells you that religion is important at the school? And it's D. The girls have to pray before lessons. And the evidence is in there somewhere about, here we are, and spend 5 minutes in silent devotion. Okay. So there's the evidence there for that question. Question 6, what do the girls all have in common? Well, none of them are used to getting up this early, and it all talks about in the passage, all yawning, rubbing their eyes and complaining of the early hour. So all of them are not used to getting up so early. Okay. And then so that was 6C, and then number 7, what does Lily Page's mother let her sleep? Why does Lily Page's mother let her sleep in? And it's B, she knows that she'll have to get up early at school. So it says down here, she says, I shall have my sleep out while I have the chance. So again, well done if you managed to get all of those correct. It's worth just putting maybe just a score out of 7 there. And then we'll move on to the next questions. These questions are more reshuffled sentences. So 8, we've got herself was the one we didn't need. 9 was watch. 10 was drive. 11 was Anne. Anne's an interesting one there because there aren't any other words apart from on that begin with a vowel. So that maybe have jumped out at you. 12 is swim. And then 13 is eternity. Sorry, entirety. Sorry, I'm not looking at that properly. Entirety. Okay, well done if you got that right. And then we'll just quickly go down through these, 14 to 20, and then it'll be the end of the test. These are synonyms. So we've got rest and relax, stroll and amble. If you amble, you walk. Disintegrate and crumble. It sort of falls apart. Relish and savour, so when you really like something, you want to relish and savour it. Prevent and hinder, I've had hinder a few times already. Reasonable and sensible, and constant and continual. So again, out of 20, write your mark there, and then I'd ask you to go to your progress grid in the back of your books. Then we've got the next set of questions, which are on test 4. So if I could ask you to go to test 4, this is pages, and I'll just type this in, this is pages 13 to 15. Okay, so again, we can check down through these questions. What we've got to choose the word that best fits the sentence. So where you've seen me put a green mark, those are the words that you need to check whether you've got them correct. Again, with these closed, it's a good idea to read beyond the gap. So you'd read beyond the gap to give you a clue. So we've got consider, practice there with an S, which makes it the verb, rather than the noun with the C. We've got weather, and we've got an oboe, which is a bit like a clarinet, but with a longer reed at the top. And then we've got bit, when, perform, enjoy, much, tour, takes, exciting. Okay, so again, out of 12, what you can do is just give me a mark, or we can add them up easily then at the end. And then we've got synonym and meanings. We've got grin and smile. Collect and compile. Compile's a good word if you need to put that in your word and meaning book. Eject and expel. Wander and saunter. And then these ones, we have to find a word that means the same as both sets. So it's really important. This example here, you've had a good look at it and you understand what you need to do. There will only be one word that goes with both pairs. So this one, it's part. That means role, character, separate and divide. Shed, to remove or discard. Think about shedding skin, like snakes do. Hut and outhouse is also referred to as a shed. Suspend, if you hang or dangle something. But if you postpone something, you suspend it. So you adjourn it. Clue, hint, notice and banner, that will be sign. And then we've got picture, goes with photo, drawing, imagine and visualise. So again, what we've got there is 5 out of 5 if you got all those right. If you didn't get those right, maybe it's because you only put it with one pair. You've got to make sure it goes with both. Then we've got one word that is different from the rest. So we need to work out why. The other 3 are linked in some way, but one word is different from the others. Okay, so we've got lecture, mug, goods, burst and book. So hopefully you can work out why the other 3 go together. So again, put your score out of 5 there. And if we move down now, we're now going to focus on your closed test book. So it's really important now that you get your closed test book out. I'll do the same, make sure I've got your closed book ready to go, just to look down through this with you. And first of all, we're going to have a look at test number 1. Okay, test 1. And again, if I can direct you to the right page where we've got a passage about Scarfell Pike in the Lake District. And we need to be on page 2. Page 2. Now what you'll see this time, I haven't written them down the side, but what I've done is I've written the letters in the spaces. So again, you can easily check what the words would have been. Okay. With these closed passages, really important to think about the context, read beyond the gap. If you didn't know a word, maybe you could come back to it, do the easier words, and really make sure you spell those words correctly. So we've got situated, majestic, extensive, popular, alike, conquer, crucial, prepared, necessary, suitable, approach, and greatly. So when you go down through, you again can hopefully give them all a big tick if you've got them all correct and put a mark out of 12. Let's have a look at the next bit that you need to do to complete the sentences. This is another example of where you need to choose the right word. These are individual sentences. So we've got increasing, honour, great, disappointment, approached, and decline. So again, check down through, see how many of those you got correct. If you choose the other words, of course, they just don't work in the sentence, or the tense is incorrect. So really check through. We've got a few more here. Expects, want, divided, received, before, improve, and promises. Okay. So that will take you down to the end of that test. So again, if you could write for me out of 25 how many you managed to get right there, you can then go to the progress grid. There is a progress grid in this book as well on the back cover, and you can write down out of 25 how many you managed to get right there. We're then going to have a look at test 2. This is a different type of close. What you're given is a set of words at the top, and you've then got to slot them down into the right places. What I've done is I've just written the letter that corresponds to the word to make that sentence make sense. It's all about the Tour de France. All about the Tour de France. So I'm going to change colour here just to make it easier for you to see. So we've got H first of all, then we've got E, we've got B. Now what I tend to do with these, if I've used a word, I tend to cross it out, because by doing that, if I am left with any words left over, it may well be, even if I didn't know the meaning, I can hopefully slot it into the gap. So it's quite a good idea with this to just cross out those letters. So 8C, missed out number 7, 7A includes, and then we've got 9G. So again, I'm crossing them out just to, again, make sure I've used them all. And it's really important you look very carefully at these words, make sure you know what they mean before you start reading through the passage. But brilliant. If you did manage to get 10 out of 10 for that one, well done. And maybe you learned something along the way as well, a bit more about the Tour de France. Okay, then we've got the next part of test 2. Looks like a letter, and I'm just going to double check that we've got the right one here. So yeah, so if we go down through, you can again check to make sure that this is correct. So in my book, I've got different words at the beginning, but don't worry about that. The questions are the same. So we've got well, then we've got few. This is a lovely one. It's insight. So our accommodation is lovely. The sea is in sight. Now it's not insight as in to reveal something like this insight here. It's insight as in I can see it. I thought that was quite clever. Then we've got predicted, ourselves, proceeded, and the right there. I hope you chose the right there on the last one on that page. And if we go on to the next page, we've got shame, most delectable, where, number, choose, opposite, me, and assured. Okay, so hopefully out of 25 now, so you need to add up all of those marks there. You can write down your score, and again you can go to the progress grid at the back. The last little task that we set you for your homework was actually a puzzle. And if you go to, now I need to make sure that we go to the right book here, well you need to go into the closed book again, and if you turn over, you can go to page 8. So again, if I just type it in here, just so it's easy for you to find, page 8, and it is the closed book that we're looking at. We had some really fun little activities here. First thing you had to do was rearrange the letters on each octopus to find 3 words ending in the letter D. So that's the first thing you know, the D comes at the end. Then use the first letter of each word to find a secret 3-letter word. And I've reorganised them for you. You could have written them maybe in a circle, like they've got them there. Think about the ending, ED ending on 2 of them. And then the 2 R's, the double consonant, maybe that gave you a bit of a clue. Maybe you spotted the word round. And you just need to think about reorganising the S, the U and the R for surround. Excelled, that means when you do really well at something. SEA, that's the answer there. And then the missing letter riddle, I'll just read what you had to do here. Each of the words on the right has a missing letter. Identify the missing letters, then rearrange them to answer the riddle below. What whistles but has no mouth? What whistles but has no mouth? And I really love this one, the wind. So these were the letters that you would have taken. And what happens is you had to work out one letter that came out of each of those words. So if you think of rhythm, what's it missing there? Well, we needed an H. Hindrance, we're missing the N. And each of them, bruise, an I, T, W, E, and then knowledge, the D. So you get all these letters, and then if you reorganise them, it spells the. So I take out the T, the H, and the E. So there's the, and then you would have spelt, hopefully, wind. By reorganise those. You may have heard that before, what whistles but has no mouth, the wind. I'm going to bring up this slide now, and this slide indicates to you what spelling words you need to be working on. In your next lesson, you're actually going to be tested on these ones, but then we'd recommend, of course, the following week you go away and you learn test 2 words ready for week 3. Okay, so we'll always say that you learn the week before you actually get tested on it. Okay, I hope that helped. I hope that helped you go through your homework. It can be really useful, of course, to stop it and pause it as you go through. Well done, keep working hard, and we'll see you soon. Bye.